Hey folks, Jim Dufault here with Jackson Systems in Indianapolis. So very excited to bring you a brand new product from Jackson Systems. It's the Jackson Systems ESP, or Electronic Static Pressure Control System. Basically, this system is going to completely eliminate your need to ever install a bypass system ever again. No more having to install a bypass damper, trying to figure out the weights, where to adjust it so that it accommodates the pressure when needed. No more added expense or hassle of adding ductwork into tight or cramped spaces. Installing this system with our zone control system is going to eliminate the need to ever install a bypass system ever again. So we sell it in one of two ways. Right in front of me here I have the actual ESP board of the control panel itself, and I'll take you through that here in a moment. And I've also got a static pressure control sensor which works with the control panel itself that constantly monitors the duct pressure inside the system. And then of course the other way that we sell it is as a combined system where you have either our 2 or our 3 zone panel built in conjunction with and wired right here ready to go with the panel. I can show you the inside of that a little bit here. So what you've got as that is the combined product where you have our zone panel and the ESP panel. And as always with Jackson Systems, whenever you order any type of zoning system or panel with us, you're going to have all the instructions right on the inside ready to go, not only in paper form, but on the back side of the panel as well. So what I've done too is off to my right, your left, I actually have this panel set up ready to go with a camera so that I can kind of show you a little bit about the setup, the wiring, what it looks like. I'm not going to get too overly involved in it, and then I'm going to take you through how the system works. So if you would for a moment take a look with me here. So as you're looking at this control panel, I know there's a lot there, but it's really quite simple. So on this side here you have our zone control panel. This is our Z300 panel. This is our multi-stage system. You can also have our 2 zone or our 3 zone with heat pump as well. And then on this side you have the actual ESP panel itself. So again, this is already wired for you, ready to go. And the first thing you're going to notice, obviously, let's just take a look at the Z300 panel. You're going to have your zone 1 and zone 2 and zone 3. This is where you're going to wire in your thermostats as normal. And then down here at the bottom, you're going to have the dampers where the dampers set up. So now you're going to notice something right off the bat. You're going to see that we only have 2 wires. Now with this system, you have to use a 3-wire damper. So I've got a damper here in front of us. This is our 3-wire damper with a Belimo actuator, floating point actuator that we use. Belimo builds this specifically for us. And this is what you're going to want to use. It will work with a 3-wire damper if by chance you may have a Honeywell system already set up, like with their 4-zone system. You're going to want to make sure that you've got a 3-wire power open, power closed damper already installed if you're going to be using this system. So again, looking at it, you're going to notice right away, because again, we've pre-wired this. So you're going to notice that when it comes down here to the damper, again, this is your thermostat, your hot and your common, your first and second stage heating, first and second stage cooling, and then of course your fan. But you're going to notice that the common wire is not wired in. And the reason why we do that on this is because all we're concerned with is getting power from this panel over to the ESP, and we do that through where the transformer powers in here. We just basically wire that all the way over to this side where the 24 VAC is wired on the ESP panel. Now, where you're going to actually run your 3 wires is when you actually go ahead and you've got zone 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the ESP panel. So this is where you're going to actually have your power closed, your common, and your power open. These are where your dampers are actually going to wire in. Okay, now coming back over to the Z300 panel. So you've got zone 1, 2, and 3 for your thermostats. And then this is where you're going to wire in your HVAC unit. Again, your hot and your common, your first and second stage heat and cooling and fan. And obviously your discharge air sensor, and of course you'd have a reversing valve and an outside temperature sensor if this was an HP panel as well, or a heat pump panel. Now I can tell you that with the discharge air sensor, you're absolutely going to want to wire in a discharge air sensor. Now even though we're not using a bypass system, so we're not bypassing air back through the system, you're still going to want to have a discharge air sensor in the event that the homeowner decides that for the next 6 months or so, or even longer, they don't want to change their air filter. So if you've got a clogged up air filter, you're also still running the risk of coil freeze up. So, and of course that's one of the largest concerns when you are bypassing air, when you have a bypass system installed. You want to make sure that your coil doesn't freeze up. So in this event, even though we're not bypassing air, you're still going to want to go ahead and install that. And then finally, again, your discharge air sensor down here. And of course, with our multi-stage system, we've got some switches here that allow you to go ahead and set your high limit on your discharge air sensor, and of course our purge option here as well for you. Now coming over to the ESP, real quickly before I wrap up, again, these are already wired for you from the factory here. You don't have to worry about that. You're just going to need to wire in your dampers to match up with the thermostats that you've wired in. And then finally, you're going to be wiring in your static pressure control sensor here. And again, this is the module here, the sensor that you're going to be wiring in. And you're going to be putting this approximately 6 feet down inside the ductwork inside, and this is going to constantly monitor the static pressure in the system. And what's so unique about this is now you as the contractor, we're actually going to give you complete control on how much static pressure you want to go ahead and set the system up for. So on the inside of this, we've got a dial. And this dial is going to allow you to dial in the static pressure that you need for that system in order to get the dampers to modulate open to relieve that static pressure. It's going to come set at the factory at 0.35 inches of water column, and we do that primarily because we have found that 0.3 to 0.35 inches of water column worth of static pressure, that's when systems begin to get noisy. So that's why this will be set up for that. Or you can reduce it if you want the system to trip earlier with less static pressure or with more static pressure. We put the controls right into your hands. So how does the system work? Well, quite simply, I want you to think of it this way. If you have a 3-zone system, so just like this panel set up on my right over here, you're going to have a 3-zone system, so you've got 3 dampers in the system, you have 3 thermostats. So all the dampers are open right now simply because all the zones are satisfied. So the fan is running and it's circulating air throughout the home. Now zone 1 goes ahead and calls. Now whether this is a heating or a cooling call makes no difference. So zone 1 is going to go ahead and call, and zone 1 damper is going to remain open. The other 2 dampers are going to go ahead and close. Now this is that point in time where those 2 dampers close that you begin to get static pressure throughout the system. And the static pressure control sensor is beginning to monitor that static pressure as it rises. Now if the static pressure rises to above 0.35 inches of water column, this panel is going to go ahead and relay a message to the 2 zones that are closed and tell them to go ahead and begin to bring those dampers open ever so slightly, just enough to relieve the static pressure in the system. Now, once those dampers are open and that static pressure is beginning to be released, every 60 seconds, this system is going to take a look at the static pressure within the system itself and make adjustments. If the static pressure is no longer there, the dampers are going to go ahead and close. If the static pressure has, for whatever reason, risen over the last 60 seconds, the dampers are going to open just a little bit more to relieve that excess static pressure. Now, this is not going to put enough conditioned air back into those non-calling zones to make any kind of a change dramatically. So you're not going to have any overheating or overcooling issues. So when you think of it this way, if a zone's not currently calling, well, it's in the process of calling, whether it's beginning to cool down or heat up one way or another. So when you think of it, the little bit of static pressure, that conditioned air that's being bled into those non-calling zones, it's actually helping to prolong those zones from calling. This is an extremely efficient use of the conditioned air in the system. So don't worry about overheating or overcooling. It's not as much air as most folks might think. It's just a little bit of static pressure that's being released. So that, in a nutshell, is how the system works. The ESP, the Electronic Static Pressure Control System, with a static pressure control sensor, is going to help eliminate completely the need for a bypass system. Again, with the damper, you're going to need a 3-wire damper with a floating point style actuator. And beyond that, with the static pressure control system and our 3-zone system as well, we've got you covered. Now, if you'd like more information on this great new product that we offer, please reach out to us anytime. You can find us at 888-652-9663. And of course, you can always look us up online at Jackson Systems, which would be www.jacksonsystems.com. There you can find more information about the ESP, about our zoning products, our panels, and all the other innovative products that Jackson Systems manufactures. Of course, you can always get installation manuals. You can get user manuals there as well to print out. So we've got you covered. I'm Jim Dufault for Jackson Systems. Thanks for watching.